Okay, welcome to this course on graphic design, and I am so glad to have you. Actually, this is the very first lesson in this course, so I'm so excited at what we are going to cover, and I put all my every effort into making this course a great option for you in your graphic design career. Now, you see, if you are going to follow along and practice with the practice files included and with all the other files that are included together, if you practice along and you pay attention, I assure you that you are going to understand exactly what graphic design is all about. You are going to get some skills along the way, and I'm sure that it's going to be a very rewarding experience for you. All right, so just give it your all, and we are going to get started with the very first module in this course, which is actually a question: what is graphic design? So this is just a brief introduction to graphic design, and by the time you cover this module, you're going to have a basic understanding of graphic design and what it's all about. So maybe you've not designed before with the computer, or maybe you have some design skills, okay, but I assure you that you're going to pick up one or two things as we go along. So let's get started. Now, the question is, what is graphic design? And we say that graphic design is the art of planning and creating visual content to communicate ideas and messages. Okay, so the key words here include art, creating visual content, and communicate. So those are the three most important terms there. I want you to take note of them because they are very important. They are what makes graphic design a special discipline. Now, we say it is an art. So graphic design is an art. It's not it's not a science. Okay, so it has to do with an art. So the art of creating visual content that people can see, content that people can relate with, okay, and along the way they get communication. They understand what is being communicated. So graphic design makes all this possible. All right, now, okay, if you look everywhere around you, you are going to see graphic design in action. So graphic design is available, is represented in packages, product packages. Look around you in your house. There are products, there are things that you have bought from the shop. Okay, so all those packages is an evidence of graphic design. Okay, the flyers you see on the road that you pick up, the flyers you pick up at the restaurant, the flyers that you are given as an invite, they are product of graphic design. The billboards and by the roadside, the banners and all whatnot, even websites. So all these are products of graphic design. So the list is endless, and what you can achieve with graphic design, basically anything that has to do with visual content. So graphic design is very powerful, and I can't imagine a world without graphic design. Can you imagine that? So it's everywhere, all around us. Alright, now this is a billboard, like I said earlier. So this is a product of graphic design. If you travel on the road and pass through highways, you're going to see different billboards. Now all these were created by graphic designers. Alright, so if you also look at your flyers, like I said earlier, they're also a product of graphic design. So you cannot we cannot overemphasize this. Graphic design has to do with communication. Yeah. All right, now if you go out and see posters by the road, or at the bus stop or the bus station, you see posters. Those posters always get your attention. Okay, now the reason why it gets your attention is because of graphic design. Yes, graphic design made it possible so that it can capture your attention and you get the message that is being passed across. Now look at this flyer. If you notice, it's designed in a certain way to get your attention and to communicate the message faster. Okay, now if you look at the next slide, you're going to see that on the right side we have all the text, all the information written out. Now which one do you prefer? I'm sure you prefer the one on the left, which is the well designed flyer. Okay, so graphic design makes it possible to achieve that. All right, so if you look at this design on by the right, or sorry, the right up, or the text on the right side, it's not attractive, it's just plain text. So but with graphic design you get something like this on the left. So that's it. All right, now if you go to the supermarket or the grocery shop, you see products all over the place. Now graphic design helps these products to sell. Yes, without graphic design those products wouldn't be able to sell as much as they do, because graphic design makes them attractive to look at. It makes them attractive to pick up and pay at the cash point. So that's what graphic design does. That's one thing it does. It helps you sell. All right, now even websites, like I said earlier, are a product of graphic design, and it's actually a branch of graphic design. Yes, you can specialize in web design, web development, so that's an aspect of graphic design. Okay, now simply put, the world wouldn't function the way it does if not for graphic design. So is it safe to say that graphic design makes the world go round? Now that's just a rhetorical question. All right, but I think it has some sense in it, because without graphic design, much of what we see out there in terms of trying to sell something or pass across a message wouldn't make much sense. We wouldn't really get the messages that are being passed across as fast as we should get them. So that's why graphic design is important. So everything we've been talking about, graphic design is mainly about communication. Okay, every other aspect such as aesthetics is secondary. Okay, because some people, they want graphic design that is out of this world, but they forget the communication part. If your graphic design is not communicating something effectively, then it has defeated the purpose. All right, now if a piece of design does not communicate to an audience in an easily understandable way, the purpose of design is defeated. So that's what I'm just re-emphasizing what I just said now. So that is to show you how important communication is in graphic design. So have that at the back of your mind. As a graphic designer, you must strive to communicate first of all before you actually impress, before you actually apply so much all those eye candy, all those fine and beautiful graphics. Okay, so that's just the point here. Okay, so we said graphic design is a marketing tool, although it can also be a form of art expression. So basically two things that graphic design does: it helps you to sell, that's marketing, and it also helps you to express yourself as an artist. Yes, so graphic design is a trade, is a craft, is a profession, just like you have other professions, law, medicine, drafting, and what have you. So if you are into or going into graphic design as a career, I want you to know that you are taking up a profession just like any other profession, and graphic designers ought to be respected. Yes, because they are also professionals in their own right. Okay, now let's talk about elements of graphic design. Now what do we mean by elements? We are talking about building blocks of graphic design. Okay, now if you look at this illustration, we have lines. Okay, we have color, we have texture, we have images, we have space, we have shapes. All right, someone said we should add text or typography. Yeah, but that's a different field on its own, so I decided not to add it here. All right, but these are the major elements of graphic design. Now everything you see in graphic design are built, every piece of design actually is built from these elements. That's why we call them elements, or the building blocks of graphic design. All right, now let's talk about branches of graphic design. Graphic design has several branches. First of all, we have visual identity, which involves creating logos, creating typefaces, sorry, creating color palettes. Yes, these have to do with visual identity or branding. All right, so if you major in branding, you're going to be creating logos, going to be creating fonts or typefaces. You're going to be creating color palettes, okay, that go along with those logos. Yes, so that is one aspect of graphic design. Now the second aspect has to do with marketing, where you have a design of flyers, posters, billboards, e-flyers, television ads. Yes, so if you major in this area, you're going to be working mainly for producing mainly these pieces of design. Now we have web design, which is basically about websites, designing the user interface of websites. Okay, right. Then we talk about packaging design. If you want to major in this, you are going to be designing mainly product packaging, basically. All right, then we have motion design. Now this has to do with any kind of moving graphics. Okay, it's a specialized area of graphic design, so you get to design motion graphics or motion pictures. Okay, so it's basically maybe for advertising, maybe for publicity, maybe for identity, visual identity, and so on and so forth. But this has to do with video, actually. Okay, it's not video editing. Video editing is different from motion design. There are special software that you can create motion design with, but you should be a graphic designer first of all before you can actually major in motion design. All right, now architecture is another aspect of branch of graphic design. In this area you design building plans, prototypes of products, and prototypes of special equipment. Yes, so that's architecture. There are also special software that can handle all this. But you must know graphic design before you can major in this area. Then we have illustration. In this area you get to create illustrations for books, publications, and other articles. Yes, so it's mainly about drawing illustrations or designing illustrations. Okay, the next aspect is UI UX design. This is actually a new implementation of graphic design, or a new variant of graphic design. It's a very recent branching of graphic design. So in this section you get to deal with producing user interfaces for different user experiences. Okay, if you are a UI UX design, you can design the interface of a mobile app, the interface of a website, the interface of an application. Yes, that's your specialization. Okay, so that's that. And then finally we have publication. In this branch of graphic design, you deal mainly with publishing books, magazines, newspapers, and working on the designs for such publications. Now all these aspects of graphic design, you can actually study all of them, you can actually become good at all of them, but it's recommended that you just stick with few of them so that you would narrow your focus and sharpen your skills. All right, now let's talk about a brief history of graphic design. Like we said, it's communication in a visual format and has existed almost as long as humans. Now, in the earliest days when humans were living in caves, they used to paint on the walls. They used to draw on the walls of their caves. Now, they were doing that to communicate. Okay, to communicate. So we are looking at 38,000 BC. All right, so that's a very long time ago. But that was when humans first began to use visuals to communicate. Okay, now the first written language was created by the Sumerians between 3300 and 3000 BCE. All right, so the earliest languages were very different to the alphabets we use today, as they were logographic. This means they used icons to present entire words, something we still do today. Yes, so this is when the first written language was coined. Alright, so it's all part of the development of graphic design. Now the next stage was during the Middle Ages, when calligraphy was invented, or calligraphy began to be used to communicate ideas, to communicate messages. So in Islamic cultures of the time, calligraphy was especially important, as it was one of the only permissible ways of artistic expression. Alright, so we are saying that this calligraphy goes back, way back to the Middle Ages, in the 700s, 800s, 900s, 1000 AD. Okay, so this was during the Middle Ages. Okay, so that's the contribution of calligraphy. So that was when people began to use scripts to write. Like if you look at the example there, you see that this specialized way of writing. Okay, so it's still, there are some typefaces today that mimic this kind of writing, so they are available even today. Alright, so then here comes the big invention, or the big innovation, the printing press. So the Gutenberg printing press, or printing equipment, made production of texts quicker and cheaper, bringing literature and graphic design to the masses. So this was a very big event, okay, in 1439 by Johannes Gutenberg. So that was when the printing press came into existence, and it made printing much faster and easier. Alright, the very first graphic design agency came into being in 1903. Okay, many companies were beginning to recognize the value of graphic design, and the graphic design agency Wiener Werkstätte was established in 1903. So this was another leap forward for graphic design. Okay, so the first graphic design agency. Okay, just for you to know. Now, in 1922, the word graphic design was mentioned for the first time. Okay, so and they called it a new kind of printing, which calls for new design. Okay, that's the article that actually mentioned the term graphic design. Alright, so that was in 1922. Alright, now fast forward to the digital era, which is actually the era we are currently living in. We started around the 1950s and marked the start of a new era of graphic design. Right, so the digital era made the creation and distribution of graphic design easier, as well as changing advertisements forever. So that is what happened, and that is how that's where we found ourselves in this era, where computers made everything much easier, much faster, much more beautiful. So that's how graphic design evolved over time. So graphic design will never go out of fashion. So that is just an answer to the question, is there a future for graphic design? So we say it will never go out of fashion, but and graphic designers will never be replaced by machines. You know, there is this concept of machines replacing humans in most fields of human endeavor. So this is but we say that graphic design can never replace, can never get to a stage where machines are going to replace humans. So this is just for you to know that if you have this skill, you will never go out of business. Now this is because graphic design requires a lot of processes which the human brain can only do far better than machines. So even though the tools evolve, the craft will never die. Okay, the craft of graphic design will never die, but the tools that we use may evolve. Right. Alright, so if you talk about the evolution of tools, go back to the history of graphic design, how the tools have been changing, but the craft has never died. Instead, the craft became much more profitable and much more advanced in concepts. Alright, So let's talk about basic tools for graphic design. Here are the basic things you need. You're going to need a laptop or a personal computer, a desktop. You're going to need a graphics tablet. You're going to need a camera. You're going to need a color book. You're going to need a desk, software, and your external hard drive. Okay, if you don't have all this, but at least you should have a PC or laptop. You can't do graphic design with a phone. No, you need a laptop, you need a PC. So a graphics tablet is optional. If you want to major in art illustrations, you need a graphics tablet. All right, so that's that. You need a camera to take photos of your samples or references or prototypes. Okay, you need a color book to match color, to be able to identify different colors and be more productive. Okay, you need a desk, of course. You need software. You need the external hard drive to back up your files. All right, so that is that for this module, and as we move forward in the next modules, we are going to have so much fun. So see you in the next module. Thank you.